I'm at Mom's watching the dog while she's at church, and she had some meat that was out to be made into a meatloaf. And so I'm just making the meatloaf while she's at church. That way she can just put it in the oven when she is ready for it. I like a lot of onion in a lot of things, and so that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm doing it fairly large. It'll go well in the meatloaf, I think. I'm also going to use egg and oatmeal as well. Use the egg as a binder and use the oatmeal as a filler and to soak up any fats. Mom had set out one package of pork sausage and 2 of ground beef. She always seems to mix the meats. I've actually seen her do it with even more meats in the past. Ground turkey as well, although she doesn't do that as much anymore as she used to. Well, we were shopping, Mom and I were shopping the other day. They had these large onions on sale, and they're 39 cents a pound, probably because most people prefer the smaller ones. And I picked up 5 pounds for it because the onions were on our list. And I didn't realize when I just started doing this, this is 3/4 of an onion. But she already had half an onion in the fridge, so I had to put it in a different container. I'm going to, Mom missed a spot on the outside of that. I'm not worried about that, but I'm going to put this back in the fridge. I had planned on doing a soup. I've found myself, I do a lot of real easy stuff, and I got a rapid ramen cooker, and so I do the ramen. But the flavor, I just really don't care for ramen's flavor. So I had some pork loin, and I cut it up really small, about 1/4 inch. And I used the rapid ramen cooker to cook it in the microwave, and and then I just put ramen in with it. I just did a few slices off the pork loin and did that, and there was still at least almost a 1/2 cup of very fine meat, and adding that to the ramen just made it exceptional in terms of flavor. And that pork makes a really good flavor, which is actually why Mom puts it in her meatloaf, the sausage, is because of the flavor. It does have on its own much more flavor than beef, in my opinion, and everybody that I've known that's willing to admit that beef isn't the go-to for everything. But I don't really care for a lot of meat. I was just going to do this. I knew that I'd helped Mom last year do some shopping, and we had gotten pork, and I'd cut some of it. We got it bulk, a loin, and we cut it into steaks, and or I cut it into steaks, and then there was some extra that I used and made it into stew meat, and I was going to make a soup out of that. I was going to cut it finer and make a soup. There's the meat that I'm going to do. I'm using this large pan that Mom has. I'm going to have to get my hands in that, and even though I just washed them, I'm going to wash them again before I do it. I'm going to put about a cup of oats. I've got 2 eggs, and there is about 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of meat here between the ground beef and the sausage. Well, I've washed my hands yet again. Me and my like to have clean hands. Can't stand the feel of anything on them. I'm going to mix this up. I've now got a cup of oats and 2 eggs, and now I get a play in here, and so I'll be washing my hands again. I'm going to actually add the egg now. That one didn't crack very well. See, the hands. Okay, I'm going to start adding the oats. Just made a little bit of an artistic mess there. Dumped them on the counter. And I'm also going to add the onion. There is a lot of onion, I am aware of that. I think that onion has so much flavor and adds so much to so many things. Leaving it out is just, in my opinion, wrong. I had a friend that learned how to cook, and she said that she does everything with her hands. And I see where some things are done that way, but like this, although I'd prefer to do it without my hands, just because I have the issues with having to wash mine so much. I just don't like the feel of stuff on them. I'm not sure how the angle is on the camera, but this is definitely gooey, but I'm trying to get it all mixed up, break up the pieces of the onion so they're spread throughout instead of being in chunks together. The layers. Doing the Shrek thing with the layers on the onions. Just I don't know, kind of a footnote. I really like these rings on the bowls for this simple reason. It's much easier than just holding the bowl. However, I don't particularly care for the shape of this bowl so much versus this bowl. I like the deeper, flatter than the taller, skinnier. Just personal preference. And I do like having the stainless steel bowls. Okay, that's pretty well mixed, but I think that looks good. I've made and seen made meatloaves with rice instead of the oatmeal. I prefer the oatmeal, and that's actually funny because I'm not actually a fan of oatmeal, especially just like oatmeal mush. I do like a granola with oatmeal. I just not a real fan of oatmeal mush. And actually, I can't stand oatmeal mush, actually. It just, the flavor, boiled oats just doesn't do it for me. And even the granola, I found some clearance recently that was really good deal, so I picked it up. And it was from a company that was probably kind of a trendy company. And it was good, but it was actually raw oats. And so I actually roasted it. I'll maybe show that. Let me turn this off, go get my hands washed again, and we'll be right back to it. There isn't a hand wash sink in the kitchen, so I had to use the restroom to wash my hands. that's one thing about a commercial kitchen, is it's nice to have the hand wash sink for that purpose. Also, a 3-compartment sink I like as much for the washing the dishes as for other things. As you can see, I've got the scrap bucket that's going out, and I've also got dishes and stuff, so it'd be nice to be able to have a 3rd compartment even while doing this. And Mom's kitchen's really small, so in terms of counter space, she's got this island. She's got counter space, but she's only got about 4 feet behind me, a little over 2 feet to one side of the stove, and about 4 feet on the other side of the stove. And then the island. So she uses this board over the sink as added counter space because it's clear counter space. Most of it, the rest is not. Oh, you know what? I was going to do it in this loaf pan. I'm not. I'm changing that. Just a second. If I recall correctly, when Mom was talking about the meatloaf, she talked about doing individual meatloaves, and she has these small loaf pans. She used to do them in bread when I was a kid. And they made a nice little personal loaf to go with a meal. But if I recall correctly, that's how she wanted to do the meatloaf. So let's pile some of this in there and make some mini meatloaves. I don't want to really get my hands in this again, so I'm just going to kind of press it in with the squeegee here. This, I'm going to get out the scale and see how big those are, just for reference. So we'll get right back to it. I got out the scale and weighed this pan. It was 22 grams prior to me starting to fill it using the kitchen scale. Just kind of a footnote. Like I said, summers are crazy for me. Not sure if anybody remembers that. I lost and then actually just found the hard drive that I had with all the old video that I was going to do. I'm going to post this actually before that. I've edited any of that and do it. But Mom's husband mentioned liking the sourdough pancakes, and so I'm going to start doing some more sourdough again to get it. I've got it in the fridge. I just need to bring it out and feed it, which is why I use the scale mostly. Although I use it for many things, but that's probably the most common. So we had 22 grams. I'm going to call this full. And let's see what this weighs now. $222 grams. So about almost 7 ounces, give or take, on that one. So that's a healthy single serve meatloaf. I'm going to continue to fill these. I'm not going to weigh them. Was just curious how much was in them. I didn't weigh the ingredients. I don't know how much of that is meat, how much is onion, how much is egg, how much is oats, but that's the mix is about 6.5 to 6 2/3 ounces on these. There are 6 mini meatloafs. They're probably 7 to 8 ounces each, give or take. Maybe this one only 6. I don't know for certain. I didn't weigh them. I just making this for Mom. Uh, I'll actually put these in the fridge for her, so that way she can come home and do them when she's ready. Being smaller like this, they won't take as much time. I'm gonna wash my hands again. Thanks for spending some time with me. Take care. Thanks for watching Perhaps Cooking. Feel free to share, give me a thumbs up, or subscribe.